yesterday, December 7, 1941, a date which will live in infamy.
And so, my fellow Americans, ask not what your country can do for you, ask what you can do for your country.
The show is in honor of, and with us today we have some special guests. Alan Kronheim, a Air Force Navy veteran. Ellen Voorhees, you're a widow of a Air Force veteran. Joe McAuliffe, Marine veteran. Okay, they all served our country, and I thank you for your service.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
But more important was, after that, they became affiliated with the Coast Guard in a Coast Guard auxiliary. Please introduce yourselves to us and tell us your affiliation with the Coast Guard Auxiliary. What is it that you do, and some information regarding the Coast Guard Auxiliary? Can you give us a...
Yeah, so again, I'm Alan Kronheim. I'm the current commander, Flotilla 79, located in Lacey Township, New Jersey. We have a flotilla which has approximately 60 members, and our primary function is boating safety, education for public boating, and we also assist the Coast Guard. But actually, we do everything the Coast Guard does with the exception of law enforcement. And we're there to serve the public. And I brought with me, like I said, my vice commander, Joe McAuliffe, who's really my right-hand man, who kind of helps me get all these projects and programs we have planned for this year implemented, and he follows up. He's in charge of kind of a chief of staff of all of our facility staff officers, and also brought with me Miss Ellen Voorhees, who's one of our flotilla staff officers. She does our publications for us. She's also a watchstander at the Atlantic Strike Force, which she'll explain later on in the program to you, what the functions of the Strike Force does and how it kind of interacts with the active duty Coast Guard.
Okay. And before we get too deep into the program, you're all volunteers.
That's correct.
You're all volunteers. Nobody's on salary in a flotilla. Joe, can you give us a little history of the auxiliary?
Coast Guard was formed to support the Coast Guard active duty. We play a vital role in relieving them of some of the duties that they currently staff.
The Coast Guard auxiliary actually was started as a Coast Guard Reserve by an act of Congress back in 1939, and it was there to augment the Coast Guard and their responsibilities. That was later amended in 1941 with another congressional act, which did away with the Coast Guard reserves as a volunteer group, made that a permanent part of the military as the Coast Guard reserves, and later on then reacted the Coast Guard Auxiliary as the volunteer group, the support group for the Coast Guard.
Oh, it's very interesting. Now, we'll get into what your functions are, but when you actually go out on the water, what do you do?
Again, our primary function while on patrol is boating safety. We look for unsafe conditions on the water, operational functions. Our primary function while out there is training for our membership. In order for us to go out on a patrol, you have to be certified by the Coast Guard. And it's two main categories. One is the coxswain's certification. The coxswain is more the captain of the ship. He's He's in charge of the vessel when we go out, and he has certified crew members with him who undergo extensive training and certification prior to becoming a crew member. Then we may take an occasional one or two trainees out with us who are striking to become a crew member, so they get their practical experience and training on the water. When these vessels go out, we're using our own personal watercraft for these patrols, but we are under orders of the Coast Guard, written orders of the Coast Guard, which actually makes our vessel an official Coast Guard vessel while we're on the water under orders, functioning in that capacity.
And you fly the Coast Guard flag and you carry identification.
We do. The Coast Guard auxiliary vessels that are on patrol, you will see two placards on the bow of the boat, one on the starboard side, one on the port side, which says U.S. Coast Guard Auxiliary on it. We also fly the American ensign on the top and the Coast Guard flag, which indicates that it is a Coast Guard vessel while under orders.
Oh, very interesting. Ellen, can you tell us some of the duties that are expected from an auxiliary member in a flotilla?
Well, there are various duties. There are 21 different categories of responsibility. We can do education, training, going out on the boats on patrol, also doing vessel safety checks, public affairs. We will attend local days, Pioneer Day or Founders Days, and we will have a table and talk to the people about the auxiliary and what we have to offer. But it's, and then of course we can become, we've been there and we feel inclined, we can become elected, hopefully, to become a staff, either vice commander or commander, and then appointed as the different staff officers.
And as part of what Ellen also said, there's 21 different areas of interest that a new member can participate in. If you have a human resource background, we have a staff officer position for human resources. We have one for navigation, another one for marine safety, one for, as I mentioned earlier, if you want to become a chef, you can become an auxiliary chef where you're trained and certified as a chef, and you can actually go and work at a Coast Guard station and provide meals for the active duty Coast Guard. So there's a lot of opportunities, whatever your interest might be, we have an opportunity for you to pursue that interest. Maybe something new you want to pursue, and again, the opportunity is there, and we support our staff. We provide the training. There's online computerized training. There's what we call C schools, or where actually you go away to a formal Coast Guard school and you become certified through the training in that fashion.
I was surprised when talking to you in the green room that the Coast Guard is actually understaffed, and according to you, it's greatly understaffed.
It is understaffed. When you look at the Coast Guard, there are approximately 30,000 members of the active duty Coast Guard. When you think about that, it's equivalent to the size of the police department in the city of New York. The difference is that the Coast Guard is dispersed throughout the United States, the Virgin Islands, Hawaii, and a number of other places, so it kind of depletes their effectiveness. Therefore, the Coast Guard Auxiliary steps in to augment that responsibility to relieve them of some of the duties that they would normally function in, and allows us to participate.
Oh. And the Coast Guard is actually under Homeland Security now. It's not considered one of the...
That's correct. They do come under the Department of Homeland Security, and as do the auxiliarists. If you look at the ID cards that are issued to us after we become a member and fulfill certain requirements, we'll receive a ID card, and it says right on it, Department of Homeland Security. So we also come under them as part of the auxiliary. Now, the problem with the Coast Guard, you talk about staffing, budget cuts. The federal government, I understand this year, is looking to cut another $1 billion out of the Coast Guard budget, which is going to further impact their capabilities, which will help require the auxiliary to step up and participate more.
Now, and as my understanding is the Coast Guard is very active with enforcement of the drug laws of trafficking drugs coming into this country by waterway.
They are. The Coast Guard, the difference between the Coast Guard and the Coast Guard Auxiliary is that we do the same functions that the Coast Guard does, with the exception of law enforcement. That is their specialty. We don't participate in any law enforcement activity at all. We're more of the eyes and ears for the Coast Guard.
Children, you're telling me that 12 years and younger, they have to have a life jacket on?
That is correct. The requirements are age 12 and under, child must have a life vest on when the vessel is underway. Underway means that it's not tied to the dock or it's not anchored. If it's the vessel's motored and under power, or it's drift while you fish, it's highly suggested that that child have a vest on at all times.
Okay.
And that's within the state of New Jersey. That's one of our regulations. So if you're boating on New Jersey waters, that's a requirement.
I would imagine New York and New Jersey pretty much parallel each other with the rules and regulations.
They do, and that's one of the reasons why we're here today, because there are a lot of Staten Islanders that come to the Jersey Shore to vacation. A lot of them do their boating in the Jersey Shore. I'm a former Staten Islander myself with a summer experience at the Jersey Shore. And if you're even a boater, when I had my boat on Staten Island, we would go fishing off the Jersey coast. You're within the Jersey waters. You have to conform to New Jersey laws, which again is part of the licensing requirement that Joe had mentioned a few minutes ago.
Now, if you're out there on patrol and you see a boater that's going too close to the shore or doing hazardous things, what actions do you take?
Well, as a coxswain of the vessel, you would instruct your crew of what your intentions are. You would approach the vessel and give them warning via verbal or over the radio, and make them aware of the dangers that exist in that area. You should be more familiarized with the waterways than the boater. Maybe they're from out of state or they're visiting. Again, primary mission is safety. Again, we only can give them caution. Again, they're going to do what they want to do, but again, we caution them.
Okay.
If they continue this activity that's dangerous to themselves or other boaters in the area or even the environment, being that we are under Coast Guard orders, we will report that to the Coast Guard station, and at their decision, they could disperse a Coast Guard facility or a local police unit out there to attend it.
Does the Coast Guard actually have people on patrol as well as the flotilla, or are they?
They do. They do.
Oh.
The difference is we maintain our patrols on the inland waterways, and our area of responsibility pretty much runs from Toms River, New Jersey, down to Tuckerton. It's a 6 or 7 nautical mile stretch of area, the entire bays and South Bays, and it's a limited number of people, of capability of the Coast Guard. They do a lot of the offshore search and rescue, that type of function.
Okay, now, and you've been used before to assist the Coast Guard in.
We have, yes. I guess one example that when they use us, and one of the rare occasions where we do go offshore, was right after Superstorm Sandy, when when the roller coaster from Seaside Heights was washed into the ocean. It became a navigation hazard, a safety hazard, and the Coast Guard put us under orders. We were out there. We patrolled that to keep the sightseers away, to protect the public from that. Another occasion was during the recent Democratic National Convention in Philadelphia. We were called up to assist the Coast Guard with patrols on the Schuylkill River, possible search and rescue there, along with a lot of administrative work onshore.
So you really assist the Coast Guard to a great deal with what's going on.
We do, yes.
And the waterways are such an immense area to cover. An average patrol, how many boats would you have out on an average?
It would depend on the availability, because all of our membership is all volunteers, and the volunteer time that they provide is based on their employment hours or their availability, and the availability of a what we call a facility, a boat that we can use for our patrols. When the facility goes out, it has to have the coxswain on board. He's the captain of the ship, as I mentioned earlier, and he has to have a certified crew. So to get the logistics put together, where you have the facility available, the coxswain, and the available crew to man that patrol. We may have 2 or 3, sometimes only 1, depending on the time of the month.
I would imagine that's to be difficult on, like, let's see, July 4th, you know. You're not going to have that many available people.
Actually, that's one of our busy times. We do get a couple of facilities out, and we also do the patrols of the fireworks at night. It's amazing when you're on the water, and especially for new boaters, so you mentioned earlier what they should look out for. Entering out in the water at night is a totally different animal than being out in the water in daytime. You can't see what's out in front of you, which again leads us back to our public education to understand the navigation lights on the buoys, what the lights on different vessels look like, so you know if a boat's coming toward you or is going away from you. So we're out there for safety patrols at night for fireworks displays, things of that nature, as well as during the daytime.
Ellen, what type of public education do the flotilla provide?
Well, as Joe said, we do have our classes from April to August, and it's an 8-day course, or an 8-hour course, rather. But we provide the education, and we have instructors that are certified to teach this course. I am a certified instructor, but I choose not to. I don't have a boat, and I never felt comfortable advising people, even though it's in black and white in the manual. But I help with the registration and marking of the tests at the end of the day with several of us. So, but we do that. But it's all certified, as I say, we are instructors.
Joe, vessel inspections, do you do that?
Yes, I'm a vessel examiner. I provide vessel examinations for personal craft, be it jet ski, paddle craft, or a power boat or sailboat. These are free of service as far as the Coast Guard Auxiliary provides. It's a courtesy. We'll go through the vessel completely to review your safety equipment that's required, go over the navigational rules, go over your nav lights and see that they're functional, and also provide some limited instruction on how to operate your radio if you have a marine radio, how to do a radio check, and how to use the hail-in channel to contact the Coast Guard if it's needed. Part of our vessel examination team basically is a vital role where we have first-hand contact with the boater itself. We play a vital role to ensure that they have that boating license. If not, to give them guidance how to sign up for a boating class. We'll go over the vessel with them and explain to them what they should be aware of as far as things that are secured, fire extinguishers, first aid kit, and again, life vest and where they're supposed to be stored on the vessel itself, so it's readily retrievable. We'll go over anchor lines, the dock lines as well, and what to look for. Again, it's a very formative time that we spend with that boat owner.
And something that Joe didn't mention also, that the auxiliary provides the service. He did say it was free of charge, and it is. But what he didn't mention is the commercial fishing boats. We also do the vessel exams on those large commercial boats also who go out ocean. And that's a totally different certification that's required for a commercial vessel examiner than it is for the regular vessel examiner. So the auxiliary does handle both of those.
Okay. Now, if somebody's out there on a boat that you deem is not safe, do you have the ability to stop them from?
Again, we are not law enforcement, and as Joe had mentioned, we will hail them either via the radio or pull up next to them and tell them what they're doing is either illegal or unsafe, and suggest that they stop that. And again, as Joe mentioned, we're not law enforcement. We can't force them. We can't write them a ticket. If they want to continue doing this unsafe activity, we will then notify the Coast Guard station, which we're on patrol. We're in constant radio contact with them every 15 minutes. We have to give them our location and our conditions, the conditions being what it is we're doing. Is the area safe? And if we say we're at a certain buoy number and a vessel, and we give them the registration number, have children on board, not wearing life jackets, and the Coast Guard may make a decision then to send either that themselves or the local law enforcement Marine unit out to them.
How about boaters that are out there that are under the influence of alcohol, which we every year we read about it in the paper? There's X number of boats that go down or lives are lost because of people who are out there. It's no different than driving a car when being drunk.
That is correct, and that is unfortunately a problem that comes up every year. There is always somebody injured or killed in some kind of boating incident where alcohol is involved. The driving a boat, operating a boat under the influence of alcohol is the same as with a motor vehicle, and the penalties are equal to that. And again, you can be cited by that, by Marine Police, by the Coast Guard. There's also other law enforcement agencies that are out on the water. They too will cite you for that. And you can have your boat confiscated like you much can your motor vehicle if you're found guilty. So it's a practice that really we have to watch out for.
As Alan had indicated, we would contact the appropriate authorities to render aid or assistance. We are not law enforcement. However, our responsibility is to observe and report. As an auxiliarist, basically, we would, again, look out for the personal safety of the community itself. If we feel that that person or that vessel poses a threat or danger to other boaters, then we would have to intervene and ask the Coast Guard for direction.
Ellen, Strike Force. Explain to us what the Strike Force is and what are the duties of members of the Strike Force?
This Atlantic Strike team that I'm a member of, I'm a watchstander there, is one of 3 for the National Strike Force. There's one strike team in the Pacific area at Novato, California, one in Mobile, Alabama, that's the Gulf Strike Team, and the Atlantic Strike Team, which is out at Fort Dix. It's part of the National Strike Force, and that was instituted as a result of the Clean Water Act in 1973. And it was to help minimize the impact of hazardous waste, chemical spills, weapons of mass destruction. And that's what we work at the Strike Force at Fort Dix. We have about 5 watchstanders. I've been affiliated with them since 2001 because the strike team actually had contacted our director of the auxiliary to have support by the auxiliary to relieve the active personnel to do their own duties. So we go in once a week. To become a watchstander, they have to have 10 watch days under the instruction of the duty officer or a qualified watchstander, and they have to pass certain qualifications. And then they come in and they become the watchstanders, and we act as we're a point of contact for external personnel coming in, vehicles coming in and out of the unit, giving them access. We also, when people are deployed to different incidences, we will track both the equipment and the personnel to make sure everything's listed in the board and that everyone knows where the people are. We take care of the computer files, the daily log. And in essence, we become the duty officer. We relieve them to do their other work there. And it's it's an important thing. As I say, I've been there since 2001. In 2006, I became what they call the auxiliary coordinator. So I do all the scheduling and keeping all the statistics with regard to the number of hours that the auxiliaries put in, because it's all volunteer hours, and we do submit that.
I want to join the auxiliary. How old do I have to be?
17 years old. There is no maximum age requirement. 17 years old or older. You cannot have a felony conviction. That's the one thing that will keep you out of the auxiliary. But other than that, you're eligible at 17 and up.
And what type of training would I get?
The training that there's no formal boot camp required for it, as there is in the regular military. You'll join a flotilla. The flotilla has its own staff officer for member training, and we have a mentoring program that Joe and I have implemented this year with our flotilla. So when a new member comes in, we assign a mentor to them, helps them become familiar with what's required. There are 8 mandatory computer-based training courses they have to take, dealing with ethics and safety and first aid and things of that nature. They're not difficult courses. You get that under your belt, and then you're free to pursue whatever endeavor you want.
Wow. Is there a contact number or a contact point for anybody who wants to, with your particular flotilla?
Yes, they can contact me directly, either by email, which is my last name. It's CRONHEIM79@gmail.com, or feel free to give me a telephone call on my cell phone at 732-773-7110. Again, 732-773-7110.
Okay. And if somebody from Staten Island wanted to get into the Staten Island flotilla, you would point them in the right direction if they called you?
Yes, and they can Google the Staten Island Coast Guard Auxiliary. You have 3 flotillas on Staten Island, North Shore on the western side, and I'm not sure where the third one is, but you have 3 separate flotillas that they can contact on the website. They'll give the contact information and reach out to them.
Okay. The average flotilla, how many personnel do you have?
Well, our particular flotilla, we have 60 members. That varies depending on the flotilla. Some flotillas are larger. We have adjoining flotillas next to us only have 12 members. Again, it's depending on the location, geographic location, and population density. When I went and joined the flotilla, I looked for the flotilla that would provide me with the greatest training and the most bang for the buck, if you will. What can I do? How can I get involved, and what would I benefit from? And that's what you want to look for when you go to a flotilla. What do they offer you as a member? You're a volunteer, but you want to get something in return for your effort. So what is it that you're looking for, and do they provide that to you?
Well, you should all be commended for what you're doing. Anybody who's a member, a volunteer member, willing to give up your time, and like Joe was telling me in the green room, you have retired generals, you have doctors, you know, who are a member of the flotilla.
That's correct.
And that's that's important to know, that people care enough to want to be out there to protect people.
Right.
Well, we got about a minute and a half left, and what I'd like to do is address new boaters and tell them how to get started on the right foot.
Well, as Joe mentioned earlier in the show, first thing is to know the boat that you're operating, take the safety course with the required safety course, so you're licensed properly, you receive the proper training, so you don't go out there and it's not driving a car. Boats do not have brakes. You have to know where you are, what your capabilities of your vessel are. You're responsible for the safety of yourself, your vessel, and everybody on board. So it's get started, get the class. That's the first step. Take the class, become knowledgeable in the operation of a boat.
You don't need a boat to have a boating license. What you need is 13 years of age to 15 years of age. They can operate a vessel if it's electric boat or it's under 10 horsepower. 16 years of age or older will require them to have a boating license. Again, so they can actually take the boating safety course as early as 13 years of age. And that's good for the rest of your life. You don't have to take it ever again.
Alan, Joe, Ellen, thank you so much for being here. You've been watching In Honor Of, and we tried to bring you as much information as possible, not only for veterans, for all people who are viewing the show. It's been very, very informative today. Thank you so much. And with summertime coming, pay attention to what they said. Thank you for watching In Honor Of. We love you for watching, and you keep watching. We'll bring you more shows.
Thank you for having us. We appreciate the opportunity.
It's an honor.
Okay.